My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave DeBow. And have you ever wondered how a Hawaiian firefighter turned his pension into 14 profitable rentals 5,000 miles away in Pittsburgh? Today on the show, I've got Marc Oshiro on the show here. He's going to unravel his incredible journey to financial freedom. Welcome to the show, Marc. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, for those of you on listening along, you're not seeing his interesting background of comic book characters and piles of books, one rental at a time. I see a book kicked up in the back there, but it's pretty common that I hear the message. I had interviewed a sheriff, and the same thing. There's this group of guys, or guys and girls, whatever it may be, the composition. This group of people working together in these, like, I'm sitting together for 16 hours on shift or whatever it is, firefighters, sheriffs. And they're making decent money, but it doesn't seem, it's like the spinning of the wheels. There's no exit plan. They're counting on the organization to create an exit plan for them, pensions and retirements and these things. And if we saw anything, especially in the corporate world during the last, let's say, 4 years, nothing is certain in this world. And so we got to do something about it. And that's what I've been seeing here and there with certain positions, is that there's always someone in the camp going, hey, what about this? And what about that? So let's start there. How did you get the financial firefighter tag? What's the background on that?
Well, so yeah, I'm a full-time firefighter in Honolulu, Hawaii. So I've been in the fire service for around 17 years already. And yeah, I'm born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii also. So I definitely was, like you kind of touched on, I was headed down this path of just, relying on my pension, and it is a great job. I mean, you can make a good living. There's overtime, and your pension is very secure. So you can end up having this great career, having this great pension set up, medical, health benefits, everything. So it's I can't complain. It is a great career. However, I think a lot of it doesn't fit maybe today's lifestyle quite a bit, right? Because you got to do so many years to fulfill your pension, get some of these benefits. So it's like, a lot of people nowadays, they want to be mobile, right? They want to be mobile, moving around. And if you have this job, and I fell into it too. I had opportunities to maybe move to like North Carolina and stuff with my son's mom, before, but it was my pension. It was my career that I thought, I can't leave. I have this thing set up now. And if I leave now, I'm throwing away money basically. So, I felt like I was kind of locked in, and, things like that really start making you think a little bit differently. And then definitely, when the lockdowns happened, it really opened my eyes to maybe how risky I was being, and it just kind of changed my path. And, I try to tell the younger guys in the department, you can do your full career. You can do 25, 30 years and love it and enjoy it. And that's great. But also just give yourself other options. You can still build a rental portfolio and still do your 25, 30 years, and just imagine how much better your retirement will be. But to me, it's just giving yourself options. And I maybe had a little bit of a late start to that, but that's kind of my mission, is to kind of help a lot of the younger guys in the department to get started and just think a little bit differently about their retirement.
Yeah. I mean, there's always that thing. It's a late start, but better today than never. So
yeah.
When looking at markets, you could have, the obvious question that people usually go is, they're like, where am I going to invest? And they usually pick their backyard. For you though, that wasn't really an option. I know I've looked at real estate out there, and I don't think anything cash flows. Maybe I don't think anything cash flows. So what is it that made that decision? And then why Pittsburgh? There's lots of places, but why Pittsburgh?
Well, the first thing I want to say is, every market, people are making money. So
Mm-hmm.
it can be done here. You
Mm-hmm.
you just have, a lot of different challenges, maybe entry point of capital you need. You know, people are doing a lot of fix and flips here, but it takes
Yeah.
a lot more money to get into it. And you kind of touched on it, nothing really maybe cash flows from a rental standpoint, but at one point when short-term rentals were more legal, I guess you would say, that's how people were doing it. They were
Yeah.
getting these properties and doing short-term rentals. So, but because there's a lot more restrictions on that now, that has kind of changed the market. And so it's all about pivoting. But for me, like you're saying, yeah, so currently, median condo in Hawaii is about 500,000.
Yeah.
Median single family home, you're looking at a little over 1 million. So the price point is very challenging to get started. And so for me, like I touched on earlier, the lockdowns happened. And actually, so like me and my son's mom, we also split up during that period. And
Mm.
one of my friends who was investing in real estate in Pittsburgh, of all places. So he had some connections there. So he was doing it for a few years. And he was always, putting it in my ear, hey, you should look into this. You should look into this. You have, equity in your home and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
he just kept putting it in my ear. And I was like, me and my son's mom, we split up and I had a lot more time on my hands. So I
Yeah.
was kind of like, I'll look into this. And I was just blown away that there were these homes that where the rent was more than your mortgage payment would be. And I
Yeah.
never,
Surprise.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I joke about it with people that I feel like I was in a bubble for a long time, right? You live in Hawaii and you just don't realize that there's these other opportunities that are
Mm-hmm.
out there. And so yeah, so fast forward, Pittsburgh, it looked great, and it was supposed to be kind of a slow process. I wanted to maybe do a few and get my feet wet. And um, I this is kind of where my story really focuses on. I probably scaled quicker than I should have because the first few were very kind of, I could tell people it kind of tricked me. They were very hands off. Everything went smoothly. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go all in. And
Mm-hmm.
I emptied out retirement accounts, and I did a 1031 in a condo I owned, and I'm glad I did it. Made a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of things I
Mm-hmm.
would do differently, but that's kind of my journey.
So, with everything that you've done so far, what would you say um, was one of the biggest challenges that you had to overcome early on?
I think the biggest challenge that most people are going to face is just getting that maybe your property is going to be, like for me, it's 5,000 miles away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the one thing where you got to get over that factor. And for me, it was more like, you know what? In today's technology, in today's world, you have FaceTime or Zoom, or you can do calls with your agent. You can actually walk the property with them. You have Google Maps. So there's a lot more access to actually seeing the property with not really being there. So that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of the first thing you have to kind of get over. But after that, it's more, what I realized is there's so many, people talk about buying real estate, and that's one portion of it, buying the property or the asset.
Mm-hmm.
But then there is like the lending world, and then there's the management world of it. So there's different
Mm-hmm.
phases that you kind of have to learn. And like I said, I scaled too quickly, I think. And it was like, now I'm trying to learn all these things at one time when I
Mm-hmm.
probably should have let things kind of stabilize, get a few, learn the process, learn how to be a manager. Even if you have a property manager, you have to learn how to manage that property manager. So it's
Yeah.
just all these little things that if I was to do it over, I definitely would have took my time. I think I got excited. I think, and say, oh yeah, these things cash flow, but that's only
Well,
part of
I
it,
mean,
right?
you put the seeds in the ground
Yeah.
um as soon as possible, and if you're waiting for good weather to plant seeds, you're going to be waiting all day. So,
True.
the earlier you get those cash flowing properties, it's like you've got that equity building now. Like
Mhm.
you can't replace that. That's great. So I love that you went and put the hard work in and went, and went beyond it. So like with all the things that you've done and now where you're at today, what would you say the secret sauce is that you figured out? What comes easy to you that other people might find difficult to do?
So for me, I think the easy thing is I'm the kind of person, if I guess maybe passionate about something, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of go all in.
Mm,
And what I notice, and I guess I enjoy networking with people. I think that's one of the
mm,
biggest things. And I have no problem making an ass out of myself. And like I said, trying to build my YouTube channel and try to network. And, a lot of people are probably like, what is this guy doing? But
mm,
I enjoy it. And I'm meeting tons of cool people and just networking. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing. Even people that I've helped get started, I think that's one of the biggest obstacles is they may only have one property and they're like ashamed of talking about it. They're like, oh, I only have one property. I have nothing to offer. But I'm like, you're one property. You're like way ahead of so many people out there.
mm-hmm.
And we're all trying to help each other and we're all trying to learn from each other. And I think that's what I notice is people, they're getting out of that comfort zone and just talking about it. I think that is the one thing that once you get past that, then I think a lot of things open up. You start, getting connections with people in your market or different lenders,
Mm-hmm.
different property managers, or just like, you know, access
Yeah,
to
just
capital,
going
right?
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Figuring out then beyond the analysis paralysis of it. Like you could spend all day looking at deals, but you should probably do one. And then you'll know if it's for you or not.
Yeah. So that's also like, yeah, I made tons of mistakes, but to me, you learn, from that first few deals. Like there's just so
Mm-hmm.
much learning involved. And, no matter how great it may look on a spreadsheet, like you're saying, analysis paralysis, until you actually do it, you're not going to learn all these little intricacies about it and whatnot. But there's just so much learning by just getting that.
Insurance, what
Yeah.
type of
Oh,
insurance?
don't even
Okay,
start.
well, what about the
Yeah.
wiring? They start asking
Oh,
questions. Oh, and then the wiring, and they're like, oh,
how,
well, what do you plan to do about that garage that's leaning down? And it's just like,
how
okay,
much? Yeah, how much time do we have? Because I mean,
it's all it's all
I,
fine in the simulator, but then the real life, there's a lot more variables going on.
yeah.
So, what are you doing now that you took all the money out, you cashed out of your job casino and you cashed in at the real estate casino, and you're in the game now. What are you doing? Because chances are you're at 14, you probably have um, brought in partners by now. You've got a few capital partners, or you're just on the edge of bringing new partners in.
That's a great question. I'm not sure if that's something in really my plans. Like
Mm.
I'm
You want to
kind of lazy.
control everything.
Well, not, yeah, but I think I'm lazy too. Like
Mm,
I can see where having partners and is more work in a sense where you're worried about what someone else is doing. So I think I find more enjoyment in like getting people started
mm,
and just connecting with them, and they may have bigger visions than me, right? So for
mhm,
them,
mhm.
raising capital and all, and I just like being a part of it. I think just hearing their stories. But for me, honestly, like, I think everyone goes through it in the beginning. Like when I first got
Mm.
started, I think like you're talking about raising capital, having partners, we're all on the table. Like I thought, like, yeah, I want this huge portfolio. I want 100 doors. I want to be
Yep,
doing
yep.
this. And then after the first, like 10, you're like, shoot, this might not be, I don't know if I want that much work. Maybe I
Yeah,
just
10
want
times more work. Yeah.
yeah. So that's where like Coach Carson's book, The Small and Mighty Investor, Michael Zuber's One Rental at a Time. Those are like the two maybe um channels and maybe mentors, I guess you would say, that really have influenced me as far as my mindset, as far as you
Your
don't need
execution too. Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't need 100 doors. I mean, if you want, if that's your goal, great. Nothing
Go
wrong with
for it,
that.
right?
Yeah, but for me, like I'm a little bit on the older side. I think, so I think if I was like 20 or 25, then I think yeah, I'd have bigger aspirations on the table. But for me, at the point where I'm at, I think getting a certain cash flow number and being
Hmm.
comfortable with that, I think that's kind of more what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, a lot of people get carried away with the scale, and it might be because of the cash flow in their market. Maybe they're only making like $50 a door or something, and they need 100 doors to make it work. So,
Yeah.
do you find that the market you're in is providing you more cash flow than the average market would? Like, what's your purchase?
Oh, I don't
What's
want to
your
tell people about my Pittsburgh. It's kind of no.
Well, you
I
can.
think
Some people don't want, like there's
yeah.
I think it's Think and Grow Rich. It says don't talk about your plans.
Yeah. No, no. Pittsburgh is great. I mean, honestly, I would have never thought, like Pittsburgh. I in my head in the beginning, I was like, all these steel mills and whatnot. I didn't
Pittsburgh
realize.
Penguins, whatever, or
Yeah.
Steelers.
But like we kind of touched on earlier, like every market, people are making money. And I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing is you have to build connections and a team that you can
Hmm.
trust. And I've seen so many people run into issues because they on a spreadsheet they chose a great market that had great returns, but they
Hmm.
knew nobody they didn't know anybody there. So once an issue came up, there was nobody that they could
Lean
ask
on.
for. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think that's the biggest thing. So Pittsburgh is a little. I mean, honestly, it's somewhat of a boring market. It doesn't have like great appreciation like some other markets. You probably could do better in cash flow than there is some markets actually that probably have more cash flow. So it's kind of just this boring market that kind of just goes along.
Yeah.
It's
Those are the
not a
best kind, in my
yeah,
opinion. Boring markets like
yeah.
car washes, these businesses make money.
Yeah, I think the one thing you do have to get over though is they do have a lot of older homes there. So
Yeah.
that's the
Well, that
one
whole
thing.
area of the country, right?
Yeah,
It's 100
yeah,
year old homes,
yeah.
but you know, I've walked some new construction in the last 10 years that uh won't last 100 years. So the fact that it's been there 100, like I'll walk a basement and I'll look around and it's like, oh, what is this, a 1910? And the basement's perfect, the concrete's still perfect, and I'm like, this thing's going to be here for another 100. Let's do it. Douglas fir, solid overbuilt construction. And then you look at this new stuff that if it gets too windy, it's just going to blow over. So
Yeah. No, I
um
agree.
if if you were to start all over again, what would you do differently, and if anything?
Ooh, well, one thing I would do differently, definitely, is I wouldn't get caught up and it's not legal advice, tax advice, but I would
Mm-hmm.
not get caught up in the whole LLC structure thing.
Mm.
I think that's one of those, it's the boogeyman, right? They try to scare you into being sued and, asset protection. And it does have some benefits, but I think it also provides a lot more headaches and complexity to where in the beginning, you're like I touched on, you're trying to figure out first how to acquire a property. You're trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
first how to manage a property. And now, if you want to throw on this whole LLC structure of maybe now you got to do bookkeeping and how
Yeah.
to make sure the money flows in a certain way to pay myself this way, and then now you have extra fees for your LLC and all these extra things that you're throwing on top of your plate. So for me, if I was starting over, that's one thing that I definitely probably wouldn't go down that route.
Mm.
And then the other thing is I kind of touched on. I did a 1031.
Mm-hmm.
Um, two two things to it. So it was a condo in Hawaii, which I 1031 out of because it barely cash flowed. And I'm glad I did it from a cash flow standpoint. So I did acquire, 4 or 5 properties, single family homes off of that one asset. However, if I was to do it again, I think I would have focused more on going bigger because I think
Mm.
I kind of went sideways. Like, yeah, I went from a condo to single family homes, which I guess is a step up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I would have tried to acquire a bigger asset, like a bigger, like maybe like a 8 to 15 unit apartment or small
Hmm.
apartment or something. So I think I would have did that, or I think I may have just kept the condo, because what I am finding challenging is it's hard to get lines of credit on um, out of state rental properties.
Mm.
When you don't live there, it's a little bit challenging to access the equity in those properties. So maybe if I live there, or if I move, or if I visit there and try and build some relationships with the banks there, then it
Hmm.
might be a little easier. But I am finding it challenging, and maybe that's just how the market is right now because of where lending is a little bit stricter and whatnot. So that's one thing. And Hawaii has some amazing HELOC products. So
Mm. Well, to
that,
afford those houses, you must have to, people have weird amounts of equity.
yes,
Weird. It's kind of like any of the hot spots like California, New York, Denver. There's places where in other parts of the country you can buy a house for like 100 grand, and that's just not even a thing. One thing I have heard, if you're interested, and you didn't ask for the advice, but the local bank of the state is what a lot of guys will are saying that's the best place to start. Not the big banks, but the bank of I guess Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. I'm not
yep,
great with the map. So it's
Pittsburgh,
Bank of
Pennsylvania.
Cincinnati or
Yeah,
Pennsylvania, whatever
yeah.
whatever it would be. So it'd be like the Bank of Pennsylvania is your best option, is what I've heard. But I'm
Yeah.
not I'm
So,
not an
so
expert.
no, no. So I totally agree with that. And that's kind of something I have been looking into. But now, kind of going back a little bit to the LLC thing, and I didn't realize this at the time. But so, when you do the LLC, you get a registered agent and whatnot.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
My registered agent for these entities, they are in Pennsylvania, but they're not in Pittsburgh. So
mm,
sometimes these local banks, they want to do, like you're saying, they want to help the community, they want to help,
mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm,
area of Pittsburgh. But on paper, my entities do not look like they're in Pittsburgh.
mm,
So I didn't realize that. But when after talking to, certain banks and certain, that's something that
mm.
I guess you have to consider. If you are going to do the LLC thing and you have an entity, you might want to consider where your registered agent is registered
Yeah,
in. So that same thing, another learning thing, right?
just more complexities, never
Yeah.
ends. But
Yeah.
what also never ends is equity and cash flow. So I'm glad you grabbed a piece of that as soon as I think everybody wishes they would have started sooner. So um let's do a little bit of rapid fire stuff here. Ready? We'll
Oh,
have a little bit
okay.
of
Oh,
fun.
well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how rapid it is.
Yeah, well it's only a few. So freedom
Okay.
or
Okay.
security. Freedom or security.
Ooh, freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, freedom for me. I think.
Um
Yeah.
Single family or multifamily.
Oh man. I am a single family guy. I am a single family. That's my lane. I mean, I think multifamily is great also, but for me, I think that's my lane. And I think it's the same thing, right? You got to just pick a
Mm-hmm.
lane and go down it. But for me, single family.
Okay, and the last one here, contracted or do it yourself?
Oh, contractors. Yeah. I mean, I maybe, maybe if I live there, but being remote, definitely contracted out. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really the thing that I've found is a lot of people who are at remote, it's the handcuffs of being remote that actually helps them build the systems to be remote. So um
Yeah. And that goes
the
back to
ability
freedom,
to
right?
well no the ability, like there's a lot of people who live in the market they work who are not free. They are
Mm.
working in their business, and it seems like the people who are out of market are the ones that enjoy the most freedom from their business because they had to implement the systems to
Yep.
manage it from a distance. So
Yep. It's
awesome.
funny you say that though. The one thing I want to touch on a little bit is, so I think the big thing is you really got to know your personality though. Because, out of state investing, remote investing does have its challenges. And there's some people that they're maybe a micromanager, or they need to be a little more hands-on. So you also got to take that into consideration. And some people may have to invest in their backyard. Maybe the returns aren't going to be as great, but it allows them to be a little bit more hands-on with their properties, I guess. And so you really got to know yourself. I think that's the biggest thing.
Oh, that's a great piece of advice. So let's see, if people want to connect with you, they want to find out more, what should they do? How do they find you?
Yeah, just look for Financial Firefighter. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel, so kind of following the one rental at a time, the Michael Zuber's kind of format. I'm trying to have like weekly regular guests, and then I also do kind of interviews with other new investors. But yeah, it's not what I found out was I only have so much to talk about. So in the beginning, I was doing a lot of the formats on my own, but then you're like, man, I gotta have other people to talk to. So
yeah, it's nice to have a guest.
Yeah, so kind of have regular guests on weekly. So we have like Sierra Smith, who's like into real estate, house hacking, side hustles, and I got like some lenders that come on. Joe Farrell, he also has a podcast, but just different people in the industry. So we have like lending, side hustles, house hacking, short-term rentals, some crypto people. But yeah, I'm just trying to get a community together and just it's more just trying to help people reach financial freedom, whether it's through stocks or real estate. But to me, it's just mindset. I think the big thing is mindset.
Well, I really appreciate you being on the show, and yeah, definitely interesting. I'm always interested in hearing the story of the out-of-town investor. That's the book, right? The out-of-town investor.
Yeah. It's like I said, man, I was in a bubble. I would have never thought it would be possible, man. I was blown away when I saw what opportunities were out there.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you stopping by. And until next time, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.